Welcome to our live streaming session for Whānau members. So just a real reminder, please, we want your questions. Please send them in now. So you've got two options. You can either just type them into the link on the screen, or you can send us an email on send us an email to stfeedback@moh.govt.nz. So we're just having a slight technical thing that distracted me slightly in the background, where I could hear myself coming out of a laptop on the other side of the room, which is slightly distracting. So we've had a really busy month. The highlight for me has been the two directors starting in the second week of July. So Lorna Sullivan has joined the team as the Director for the Disabled People in Whānau supporting team, and Marshall Tutou has joined the team as the Director for the System Enabling team. So it's really great to have them both on board. We've also been doing a lot of recruitment, so we've been going out and looking for people to be connectors and a network builder, and for other roles in the System Enabling team, funding coordinators, government liaisons, and disability information people and administrators. So we're looking forward to all of the new staff starting on the 27th of August. So starting with some questions. So I had a question that was sent through from Wendy. How will families know what choices they have about their funding options and how these can be used? So you'll remember from previous conversations that people will have a number of options about how to manage the money. So the sorts of things are, people will be able to have them funding in a bank account where they manage all of purchasing services, employing staff, paying tax, etc. So having that, so that's one of the options. There will also be the option to use a host provider, either a disability host provider or somebody from a mainstream type provider like an accountant. There will also be flexible disability support contracts where you can get a provider to manage the funding for you, where they might deliver some of the services and also arrange other services for you. Then you can negotiate directly with a provider, or you can just choose which provider you'd like to work for and get the ministry to manage it in the same way that it does now. So you'll be able to use those options and to have a range of those if you wish. So you might choose to work with a particular provider for providing personal care, and you might also have an amount of your budget that you manage yourself for some of the other other disability support costs. So when you work with a connector, if you choose to work with a connector, they will provide you information about the options for managing the money and will ask you some questions so that you can think about what is it that would work best for you and your family. And then that will go as part of the conversation to a funding coordinator and will be part of the funding agreement between the system and the disabled person and family. But connectors won't be the only place to get that information. So all of the information about the different options for managing the money will also be available on the website. And there will be things like frequently asked questions so that people will be able to see some of the things that people ask all of the time. So the follow-up question from Winnie was that my friend in the Waikato says connectors there do not always know the detail of what's available, and we will be relying on connectors to be well informed, independent and accessible to work with us. So we will be doing our best to ensure that connectors have all of the information about, in particular about funding, but also about what are the different options in the community. But again, we will make that information available on the website so that families can look directly at that, or disabled people can look directly and see what's available. And what we are planning to do in terms of the information is to have information about everything that is available in objective type terms. So, and there will be an opportunity, for example, for providers to say what support they provide and for them to have testimonials or some information from people who've used them. Also had a question sent in earlier from Mani saying, my nephew would like to manage his support with help from our whānau. We find the system very confusing. How will system transformation work with Māori, and what do we need to know about how to use self-direction? So in terms of one of the big things we're trying to do with system transformation is to make it easier to use and easier to understand. And you will have the option to work with a connector if you want, who can help you to navigate the system. But you can also choose, and there will be information available on the website. We will have an orientational welcome pack that gives you information about how things work. And there will also be the opportunity to attend face-to-face sessions that can give you information about that. We are wanting to make sure that the system works for everybody in a way that works for them. And so part of that for Māori is making sure that for people who want to have a kaupapa Māori experience, that we can look at how we can provide that. What does that look like in practice? So we are looking to get some of connectors who come from a Te Ao Māori worldview, and across Mid Central there are a number of iwi, and we'll be looking at a range of connectors there. We also want to have information available about what are the types of kaupapa Māori services available in Mid Central. And we also have a working group that's been looking at, for people who would like a whānau ora approach that includes the sort of whānau ora side of it, but also disability support. How can we deliver an integrated approach for that? And so one of the other options is we are going out to NGOs for some connectors where they don't also provide disability support. And that might be, for example, a whānau ora provider. What do we need to know about how to use self-direction? Well, that will be some of the information again that connectors can talk to you about. So self-direction means disabled people and families making choices about what they want. So that is you being in the driver's seat, and for some people they will need to practice making decisions, and it will be new to actually making decisions, and we will put support in place with connectors, for example, but also having things like we're about to go out with the capability building fund, and that there will be opportunities for people to practice some of those skills through that fund. Mani's also asked, will there be Māori staff to guide us? So we're still going through the recruitment, but that is definitely one of the things that we do want to have Māori staff. We basically want staff who represent, staff who look like our community. So that is, we want people who are Māori, come from a range of cultures, people who are disabled people who are family members. We want to have people from the rainbow community. We want to have people who can work with different age ranges. So it is important that we have connectors that come from, who have diverse backgrounds and can work with a diverse group of people. Welcome everyone again, and once again can I just remind you please to send in your questions now. We do seem to experience with this that people tend to send their questions quite near the end, so really encourage you to send your questions now. So we had a question earlier from Anne Brewer. From what I know, and then from what an agency coordinator told me, it would seem there's a real need to know exactly how the funding process will work, as comments appear to be conflicting. Can you please explain all details relating to funding for a disabled person under the new system? Well, the reason why probably there are conflicting comments at the moment is that we still haven't got signed off approved funding allocation processes yet. So we're still working with ministers and going to Cabinet in the next few weeks on that. There will be information about how the funding will work, and what we will have is information for disabled people and families sort of talking you through every step of the process about how that would look like. But we also want to make it as easy as possible for people. So appreciate that it can be quite challenging at the moment where we don't have all of the information about exactly how funding will work. But what I commit to is that we will have the information available before the 1st of October and in a range of ways for people to be able to understand. And there will be support from connectors or disability information people along the way about how the funding will work. I've got a question that was sent in earlier from Jennifer. If I don't want to choose a connector for my whānau member, but I still want a connector, who will choose one for me? So just want to remind people that there will be 3 different types of connectors that we're trying in the prototype. So there will be the people who are employed across the region. There will also be some contracted with non-government organisations who don't provide other disability support services. And for example, as we said, potentially a whānau ora provider. And there will also be the option that if there's somebody in your networks that you think would make a good connector, that you can actually go to the director or manager and say, actually, we'd like to use this person. They can check that they've got the skills that are needed, and then we will put in a process in place to be able to pay them for their time. But the question of you do want a connector, but you don't actually want to be the one to choose, in that situation, either a disability information person or a connector can talk to you just to understand a little bit about you, and then would be able to provide a recommendation about a connector for you to work with. So you would still be making the decision about who to work with, but there would be a recommendation around who would be a good person for you. Another question from Anne that was sent in earlier is, what progress has been made so far by the network building options and tools working group, particularly around ageing parents with adult disabled family members and no other support people apart from the agency providing supported independent living services? So we've done a lot of work in terms of identifying peer networks, and so disabled people's networks and family networks, looking at what advocacy options are available in Mid Central, identifying the sorts of information and tools that people will want to help them think about what they want out of their life, what are their strengths, what are the sorts of things they want to do, and what support they will need to get there. In terms of thinking about, in particular, the ageing parent situation, we've also done some work, but we're still doing a lot more around how we can put in place having options for someone else to come in and be a person to support their disabled family member to make decisions, so that for the older parent, they know that there will be somebody in place to support their family, and that's a family member, and it's a sustainable situation for them in the long term. But that's not sort of something that can happen overnight. So it's the sort of thing that we'd want to give people an opportunity to sort of over time let someone take over some responsibility, and for them to do less but still continue to be obviously part of their family members' life. So there's still a lot more to do in that area, but that is one of the things that I'm really conscious of, that we need to keep on working on. What help, so this is continuing from Anne, what help aside from the support worker input will be available for the disabled person in this situation? So I think that was in the ageing parent situation. So there will be access to a connector to work alongside you. There will be the access to peer networks for the disabled person, for the family. There will be tools and support to help people thinking about how can they build up their networks. We will have the ability for people to put in place arrangements for someone to support their family members with making decisions. So support for decision making, for example, looking at what do we need to put in place legally to support people in the longer term. Just had a question emailed now, when will we be able to meet with the connector? So from the 1st of October. So actually looking at this, they are asking more about, will they be able to meet us outside of work hours so that we can meet as a family? The answer to that is yes. So what we're looking at is having connectors work between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, and some hours on Saturday as well. So we're not expecting connectors to work 12 hours a day, just want to make that really clear. The idea is that they would work sort of the normal working week but at different times, and we'd always have somebody available. So that might mean that some people work 8 to 4 Monday to Friday, others work Tuesday to Saturday, some people start at lunchtime and work later. So we want people to be available at the times that work for disabled people and families. And the idea is too that you'll be able to meet a connector somewhere that works for you. So that might be in your home, it might be in Hub, it might be in a cafe. It'll be up to you what works for you. Just really want to encourage people to get their questions in. We had some questions sent before, but we aren't getting a huge number of questions now, and we'll have to wrap up early if we don't get more questions. So I've just had a question from Lisa. Is everyone immediately able to access the system? So from the 1st of October, everyone who is in the Mid-Central region will be part of the new disability support system. That doesn't mean that things have to change for them. On the 1st of October, you'll have exactly the same support that you had on the 30th of September will continue to be in place for you. But if you want to change things or explore other options, you'll be able to contact us and talk to a disability information person or a connector and start working with them. If we suddenly get 1,600 people wanting to work with us on day one, obviously we won't have enough connectors to be able to do that. And so what we will do is provide information about how many people we can work with at a time and keep people updated in terms of what the waiting times are to get to a connector. I've just had an email from Alan. Sorry, just joined. When will we know about the capability building funding? So we're going to have information available next week around the capability building fund, and the first round of applications will be looking for people to get in their applications by the 24th of August so that we can make decisions by the end of August and get things in place so that people can start getting ready before the 1st of October. So that information will be available in a range of formats late next week, and really encourage you to, if you're interested in getting an application in, to do that sooner rather than later so that we can get something in place in September. I had a question about how will system transformation work with carer support from the 1st of September. We were told that people would have carer support applications available as a budget from that time. Will this happen automatically in Mid-Central, and can we be allocated the funds directly without anyone in the middle to buy respite as we see fit? So my understanding is with the changes to respite will be in place by the end of the calendar year, but in Mid-Central, from the 1st of October, people will be able to have their entire budget in a more flexible way and within a bank account if that's what they want. So from the 1st of October, people can contact us and ask for their funding, ask for their support to be provided in that way in a bank account where they can purchase respite directly without having to go through somebody. Just a reminder that get your questions in. We've got 10 minutes left and we're running out of questions. So email us on stfeedback@moh.govt.nz, or you could join us for the disabled people session, live streaming session on Monday at the same time. Okay, I've got a question about how will connectors be trained. So we're having an induction that is around about 5-6 weeks, and in that induction there'll be some things where we are training everybody across the new system. So that's in both teams, whether they're in the disabled people and Whānau supporting team or the system enabling team. For connectors specifically, there will be some in-depth training about how to work with disabled people and families and how to co-design or co-create the kind of support that people are looking for to enable them to have the kind of life that they want, to build on their strengths and to be able to do things in the community alongside everybody else. So we're also going to be having, I've been looking at the outline for induction today. There's a whole it's available to manage the money, making sure that people have a really good understanding of human rights, that people have a really good understanding and are able to apply the Enabling Good Lives vision and principles, that they know about things like supported decision making, that they have understand and are able to respond in culturally responsive ways. Whole range of things that it's a very long list of what we're planning to induct people on, but that will only be the start. So connectors will get ongoing support and training, including having supervision on a regular basis, peer support, and being able to kind of have reflective practice and look at what's worked and what they would do differently next time. Just had a question from Lisa, is there any feedback around housing initiatives for disabled people? I don't have anything specific that I can talk to you about at this stage, Lisa, but we have been working with Housing New Zealand and they are interested in understanding what people might be looking for in the mid-central region. So don't have anything specific, but we know that housing is an issue for, it's a big issue in New Zealand and for disabled people in particular. So that is something that we'll be looking at as part of the prototype. I've got an email from Yanni. If I move to Palmerston North before the 1st of October, will I be able to be in the new system or will I have to wait? If someone moves into the mid-central region, whenever they move into the mid-central region, they will become part of the new system. So if you're there before the 1st of October and you're eligible for disability support, then on the 1st of October you'll be part of the new system. But if you moved at a later period, you would also then be part of the transformed system. But really we're hoping that we're not going to get 30,000 people moving to Palmerston North, because that would mean we may have a little bit of a waiting time for connectors. So we're running out of questions again, so I'm going to give you one more minute to see if any questions come through. And if not, that will be, we'll wrap it up here from us. So your last chance to get in your questions, or just a reminder that we will be online again on Monday for a Disabled People's Forum, and you can join us there. Oh, I've got email from Tracy. If it's not too late, how will you know the new system is working? So one of the things we've got now is we're collecting information through a baseline study to understand what's happening in the mid-central region before we start system transformation. So we've got information to go back to understand exactly what the experience was like, what life was like, and what the outcomes were for disabled people and families before we started. Then we're going to collect information throughout the prototype from a range of perspectives, so from disabled people, from families, from providers, from people working in the system, from communities, from government officials, to understand what's been the experience. Are things better for people? Are there things that we still think could be better? And then we'll use that to systematically try, learn and adjust the system to make it better. We will also be collecting a lot of monitoring information to sort of see how things are working. So everything from how quickly are we responding to inquiries, to how long is it taking you to get to a connector, to how long is it taking for a funding decision to be made, to what are the sorts of things that people are choosing to do with their money. So a whole lot of information being collected. And then we will have evaluation happening over a period of time. So 18 months, we will be doing some outcomes evaluation and some systems evaluation and going back to see how things compared to the baseline. And we'll be doing that again at 3 years. So we are 6:55. Oh, and I think we've got another question coming in from Lisa. So just wait to see what that is. What is the relationship with local government? So at the last regional leadership group meeting, we had people from the Palmerston North City Council come and talk to the group. So they're doing quite a lot of work to see how they can make communities more inclusive in Palmerston North and are really looking at opportunities to have disabled people as more part of that conversation. And they've got a reference group that they're just setting up. But the shorter answer to that is we'll have government liaisons, one of whom will have a strong relationship with the local government to try and look at how can we make the universal support, what the council does, inclusive for all disabled people in the region. So there will be a strong relationship with local government. Just got an email from Nan saying, will there still be an option of being direct funded or do we have to use a provider? Yes, there will be the option of having direct funding for your support within a bank account that you can use for support. There will be a range of other options too for people who don't want to manage the money themselves. So there will be the option of having a host, whether that's a disability host or somebody, a universal mainstream type host. There will also be the ability for providers to manage the money on your behalf, deliver some of the support and arrange it through other people, and the ability to negotiate directly with a provider or to choose a provider and for the ministry to manage that in the same way that we do now. Okay, well, I think that looks like the last question. So once again, thank you for your questions. And if there's things that you wanted to ask or just think of after this, please feel free to send them to stfeedback@moh.govt.nz and we will either reply to you or answer the question on Monday in our Disabled People's Forum at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.